Welcome to Whiskies of the Journey. My name is Peter Fasciano, and today this is my Whiskies of the Year for 2023. If you're new here or you've been here for a while, you know that this channel is a whiskey promiscuous channel. I have 7 bottles to cover, with each one having a runner-up. I have a international, a rye, a Japanese, an Irish, a peated Scotch, an unpeated Scotch, and then a bourbon. So let's go ahead and jump right into this and let you know what my international whiskey of the year is going to be. First of all, my runner-up is going to be the Eiffel 2021 edition. The reason why I put this in here as my runner-up for the international whiskeys is because of a sherry note that's in here. Each time I went back to this, I got a little bit more complexity out of it. It just hit my palate better than all of the others. But the reason why I cannot put this as my whiskey of the year is because, one, it's a limited edition 2021, and I don't believe that you can get this any longer on the shelf. So my whiskey of the year, my international whiskey of the year, is readily available. I think it's a relatively good price for what it offers, and that bottle is going to be Emerald Fusion is going to be my international whiskey of the year. This is coming in at $83.99. And the reason why I put this on here is because the nose gives me a lot of good sweet notes. There's a good amount of depth. I get a little bit of a smoky note as well. I do like peated whiskeys, but this is not overly peated in any way. Sweet, malt, spice, readily available. I wouldn't say that it is overly sweet, overly spicy, overly peated, but it just offers a pretty good balanced palate. So that is going to be my international whiskey of the year and my runner-up. Let's keep this thing going and get into my rye whiskey of the year. So my runner-up rye whiskey of the year, Barrel Seagrass. Barrel Seagrass is a very, very interesting, unique rye whiskey. The reason why I put this in here as my runner-up is because it is so unique. It has such depth of flavor. It has all of these wacky finishes. The Martinique rum, Madeira, apricot, brandy barrels, all of these go together to create a very, very complex, deep, rich, bizarre experience. And because of that deep, rich, bizarre experience, that's why this ended up being the runner-up instead of being the rye whiskey of the year. It seemed to be too much of a mood pour to actually put it into my top rye whiskey of the year. So my rye whiskey of the year is Sagamore Spirits Double Oaked Rye. I tell you what, the rich flavors, the double oak, the piney without being too piney, the syrupy without being too sweet, the rich oak, all of this comes together rather nice in the glass. Yeah, all of that deep, rich, dark oak, syrupy, sweet, readily available on the shelves, $64.99. And if you don't know, I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. As you can tell, I have put a pretty good hurtin' on this bottle. It just sits on the palate. It doesn't overwhelm you with the typical dill, pine, black tea, or herbal notes. It's very well balanced. The finish goes on forever. And again, the piney herbal notes, the oak, nothing is over the top, which is why I ended up putting this one as my rye whiskey of the year. All right, moving on to my Japanese whiskey of the year. My runner-up, Nika from the Barrel. Now, there's a couple of reasons why Nika from the Barrel ended up being my runner-up. First of all, it was the proof. This is coming in at 51.4% ABV, which is very odd for a Japanese whiskey. And again, the reason why this is not my whiskey of the year is because the ABV drinks pretty hot. And I think the uniqueness or the subtleties of a Japanese whiskey are lost back behind all of the ABV. And the overall experience that I get with this just does not live up to what I thought or what I think is going to be my top Japanese whiskey of the year, which is going to be Single Malt Yoichi. This is a peated product coming in at 45% ABV. And I gotta tell you, this by far is right up there with my top Japanese whiskey. I think the Yamazaki 12 and this are head to head. Yamazaki 12 was my Japanese whiskey of the year last year. This provides a good amount of citrus, malt. It's pretty crisp coming out of the glass, very delicate. The peat notes are right there without being too in your face. Vanilla, citrus, very, very crisp, very delicate. Depth of flavors on this are spot on. Yoichi single malt is coming in at $88.99, and it sits on the shelf. It's readily available. All right, we are 3 in, 4 categories to go. Let me know in the comments down below what your whiskeys of the year are. If you are whiskey promiscuous, where would you put all of these different types of whiskeys into your list? If you've had any of these, also let me know in the comments down below what you think of them. And this is also a very good time to let you know, I am going to be splitting my whiskeys of the year up into 2 categories. Based on the way that I have my channel set up, I don't get to review all of the whiskeys throughout the year, especially some of the limited editions or the allocated bottles, even though I have 12 bottles that I want to cover this year that I haven't really reviewed on air, but I do want to put them into my end of the year whiskeys of the year. And I'm pretty much sure they're all bourbons and ryes, and maybe one of them is an American whiskey. That's going to come out the first weekend of December. So if you are interested in this content and you're not subscribed, do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. Turn that bell notification on so you can actually get notified when a video goes live. I do produce videos and release them every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. My allocated whiskeys of the year will be coming out the first week of December. So turn that bell notification on if you're interested and subscribe to the channel. 4 categories left, and the next one up is going to be my Irish whiskey. This is going to be the single pot still Irish whiskeys. I don't think there's going to be any surprise here for my runner-up or my whiskey of the year. So let's jump into it. My runner-up is going to be Blue Spot. This is coming in at 58.9% ABV. It's extremely expensive, but I do believe this offers something slightly different than my top Irish whiskey of the year. The reason why this ended up being runner-up is because of the price and availability. Even though this is a 3-cask maturation, we've got bourbon barrels, sherry butts, and Madeira casks. Everything about this hits my palate exactly right, along with the ABV. I actually put this head-to-head against my top whiskey of the year for Irish, and it beat it out. And there's no surprise what this is going to be, but my Irish whiskey of the year is going to be Redbreast 12 cask strength. Redbreast 12 cask strength is an interesting one. I think the depth of flavor that you're getting out of this bottle for the price, which is $79.99, and the ABV 56.3%, is a little bit more tolerable. It's not as hot as the Blue Spot. The sherry casks that are used in Redbreast are spot on. Raisins, dates, figs, plums, all of that is in here. And again, the ABV coming in a little bit lower than the Blue Spot just brings out all of those individual flavors that you get. Doesn't blow out your palate. You still pick up on the whiskey that is actually in here, or the distillate, whatever you want to call it. And when I talk about mouth coating, this covers every inch of the mouth. It saturates the back of the throat, coats the tongue rather well. All of those sherry notes and the flavors just explode, and it just elevates the longer you sip it. And that's why Redbreast 12 cask strength is my Irish single pot still whiskey of the year. All right, 3 left. Moving on to my peated Scotch of the year. This was an extremely difficult category for me. And just like a lot of the other runner-ups, one of the main reasons why it became a runner-up is one of the reasons why it was not also part of the top whiskey of the year. Springbank 15 is coming in at $149.99 in Phoenix, Arizona. It is extremely difficult to find in some areas, so the price and availability is what is keeping this out of my top whiskey or my top peated Scotch of the year. The flavor profile with the 15 hits everything just right. We got the sherry barrels or the sherry influence. We have that peat that's not over the top. Everything that people say about Springbank and that Springbank funk comes and goes with me with this bottle. Sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't. But if I'm going to be looking for a pour that develops over time, you can keep this in your glass, and each time you go in to get a sip, it offers you a little bit of a different note. It's complex, it's rich, it's deep, it's very well rounded, very well balanced. And it would have been my peated Scotch of the year, but the price and availability kept it out. But what did make it in, Port Charlotte 10. Port Charlotte 10, heavily peated, is coming out of Bruichladdich. And this pour just surprises me every time. It's $71.99, natural color, non-chill filter, 50% ABV. If you want to talk about a crisp, fruity, vanilla, malty, peated Scotch that hits the palate exactly right every single time, this is it. The peat that I get is in that category of burnt smoked meat. I don't get Band-Aid, I don't get iodine, I don't get burnt log. Tremendous amount of vanilla, a good amount of malt, nice and fruity on the palate. The smoke hits your mouth first, followed by the sweet fruits, the vanilla, the malt, crisp, complex, and the depth of flavor is spot on. All right, we have 2 left. Let me get these things out of the way and move on to my non-peated Scotch of the year. My runner-up for Scotch of the year is going to be the Bunnahabhain 2022 cask strength. This is going to be an online purchase, and one of the reasons why this did not become my unpeated Scotch of the year is because it's unavailable, or at least I've never seen this in the United States. I had to order this offline or online through the Whiskey Exchange. And if you were around last year, the 2022 Scotch Whiskey of the Year was the Bunnahabhain 12. This bottle just takes that bottle and escalates it like 10 times. Everything about this bottle is extremely flavorful. Raisins, dates, figs, plums, everything that you're going to want in a sherried whiskey is in here. But again, availability is what kept it out of the Scotch, the unpeated Scotch Whiskey of the Year. So what is my unpeated Scotch Whiskey of the Year? Well, this is one that appeared on the channel, I think, one time during one of my top 5 videos. But off camera, I've gone back to this bottle quite a few times, and just like all the others, the depth of this bottle is amazing. We got the Bruichladdich Classic Laddie. This is also coming out of Bruichladdich Distillery, natural color, non-chill filtered, 50% ABV. Even though this is a non-age stated whiskey or Scotch whiskey, Scotch single malt, the fruit, the crispness, the malt, the citrus, a little bit of spice, the development from the arrival to mid palate to the finish goes in waves. You get the fruit, you get the malt, you get the citrus. There's a really good, rich depth of flavor, and $65.99, readily available on the shelf. You can't go wrong with this one. And that's why I chose it to be my non-peated Scotch Whiskey of the Year. All right, moving on to my Bourbon of the Year. This category was extremely difficult. Like I had mentioned a little bit earlier, I have a lot of allocated limited edition bottles that I picked up that I did not review on the camera, but I did taste throughout the year. That's going to be in an upcoming video. So if you're looking forward to a allocated Whiskey of the Year list, tune in. That video will be published the first week of January. So let's get on to the Bourbon of the Year. If you've watched this channel, you know there are 2 bottles that I absolutely raved about the entire year. And just like most or the majority of the runner-up bottles, they're a little bit more difficult to find. And in this particular case, not only is it a little bit difficult to find, but it's also a single barrel. My runner-up Bourbon of the Year is the Old Forester Single Barrel Strength Master Distiller Selected. This one's coming in at 128.3 proof. If you like the banana profile, bananas Foster, almost like this is a banana split sundae with vanilla ice cream, chocolate sprinkles on the top, some creaminess involved there, cream soda as well. This is a tremendous bottle. But for those reasons, because it's a single barrel, it's a limited edition, and therefore it's going to be put in my runner-up position, which leaves my last bourbon, my last whiskey of the year for 2023. And you can't get any more different as far as a profile and taste goes from this. And if you have watched this channel since January of this year, you know that this bottle, for some reason, somehow, some way, is the one that struck me the most. I connected with the palate the most. And each time I go back to it, I end up liking it more and more. Any guesses? Let me know in the comments down below before I reveal it. Knob Creek 9 Single Barrel Reserve. I can't say enough good things about this bottle. Not only is it readily available, but we're looking at $52.99. It's an amazing value, even though this is, I believe, a single barrel, and there are going to be single barrel variations within the Knob Creek 9 lineup. The cherry, the oak, the nuttiness. You know that I'm not a big spice person. And when I do get spice, it has to be perfectly balanced with the amount of sweet that's in the glass. And this is definitely balanced, at least for me. That 120 proof mark, with this coming in at 120 proof, it doesn't drink hotter. Actually, I think it drinks a lot less than 120. The nuttiness, the cherry, the spice, the vanilla, the oak, caramel, brown sugar, everything that you're gonna want in a bourbon, plus at a reasonable cost. I think that is one of the main reasons why this ends up being my bourbon of the year for 2023. And it's perfectly fine if you disagree with me. In fact, I encourage you to disagree with me in the comments down below. Let me know what your bourbon whiskey of the year would be. If you've had the Single Barrel Reserve Knob Creek 9, let me know what you thought of it. Would this come anywhere close to being a whiskey of the year for you based on price, depth of flavor, how it comes across on the palate, the lingering finish, the good balance of sweet spice, and don't forget about that Jim Beam nuttiness. I just can't say enough good things about this bottle. And that's why it's my whiskey of the year of 2023. That's where I'm going to leave it. Do me a favor, leave some comments down below what your whiskey of the year would be in 2023. If you are whiskey promiscuous, let me know your entire list down below. And until the next time, wherever you're at in your journey, I hope you're enjoying it, and we'll talk to you later. Bye. All right, with that all out of the way, let me do a blend really quick. This is going to be a very Frankenstein blend. I've got 7 different whiskeys. I'm going to throw this all into a Glencairn. This is going to be for you, Tony's last name, or Tony last name. Every time I do a blend, I'm always doing this for you and anyone else that is interested in the blends. Let me grab a Glencairn and get it all mixed in. Amaroot Fusion, Sagamore Spirit, Double Oak Rye, Redbreast 12, Cask Strength, Uichi Single Malt, Port Charlotte 10, Bruichladdich, the classic Laddie, and finally, Knob Creek 9 Single Barrel Reserve. I don't know if you can see this or not, but all the different colors that are coming out of all these glasses, just absolutely amazing. I smell peat, so I think the peat is going to be overwhelming this. Color looks a little bit goldish, definitely peat, definitely a little bit sweet and spice. ABV burning the nostrils a little bit. Legs look pretty good, haven't started dropping yet, or maybe they already, oh, there they go. All right, got a little bit of pineapple, almost a burnt pineapple, crispy pineapple on a grill, a grilled pineapple, peat, sweet, and spice. Let's go ahead and get this thing on the palate. Well, I can tell you that it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I wouldn't say that it actually is bad. It has some pretty good sweet peat notes. The ABV is hitting the palate rather well. Does come across as a little bit oaky, so I guess there would be some sort of barrel influence there. But I would say the dominant note that I'm getting is the peat and the pineapple. I'm gonna get one more sip in here. All right, that is interesting. I don't think it really necessarily develops into anything. It's consistent from the arrival to mid palate to the finish, and the dominant notes would be the peat and the pineapple. This could be something you can work around with, but I'm sure it's gonna take a lot more time than I have. And that's where I'm gonna leave it. So again, wherever you're at in your journey, I hope you're enjoying it. I hope the holidays have been treating you well. This video is gonna come out before the new year, so I hope you have a great new year. And I'm really looking forward to 2024. Cheers, everybody.